welcome everyone to this talk, to this closing keynote of iLRN 2024 online. We're very happy to have Maya Georgieva here as our closing keynote speaker. Maya Georgieva is a futurist and XR metaverse strategist, an immersive storyteller, producer, and a sought-after keynote speaker on the future of immersive learning and innovation. And we got her because she's doing amazing work for iLRN. And yeah, she is gonna talk about the redefining the future of learning with the State of XR and Immersive Learning report, and we'll discuss very brand new findings, if I'm correct, and we're very much looking forward to that. For everyone who's in the session, if you have any questions, use the Q&A or the chat, or afterwards, if you have questions, you can also raise your hand and talk to Maya and ask her some questions. So yeah, with that, I would like to give over to you, Maya, and very happy to have you here and interested in what you're going to tell us now.
Thank you, Jule. Thank you so much. It's exciting to be here. I'm honored to have the opportunity to close the conference. And hello to everyone. Bonjour, hello, in any language, and do let me know where are you joining us today. And I'm joining you from New York City, where I live, and actually right from one of our buildings at the New School, which is not that far from Fifth Avenue, actually right off. So this is always an exciting time for me, June, for a number of different reasons. And I'm excited here to share with you the findings, the categories from the third edition of our forecasting effort. And so majority of my talk will be looking into that, really release that new information that I've been working on for the last few months. But I also start with sharing a little bit about myself. Just as I know some of you, and some of you I hope to meet in the future, but some of you also feel free to introduce yourself, where you're joining us from, what is it that you do in the context of immersive learning. I'm always curious to meet people and to meet you, and certainly being part of the Immersive Learning Research Network. So as Jule suggested, yes, I define myself as a futurist and storyteller, and I define it this way for me since pretty much I was 10 years old. My parents kind of asked me what I want to be, and I said, I want to live in the future. I'm a futurist. So this has been a long term for me, but the other part, very strong for me, that I drive this from narratives and storyteller. So I'm kind of a storyteller from the future. That's really probably my strongest identity. But I also lead the Innovation Center, which is home for our XR and quantum labs at the New School, and some of you recognize the Parson School of Design, and where I teach, and I work with creators. I work with students, with tech companies, design studios, think tanks, and international organizations. And for some time, I've been really interested in writing the first wave, and that's kind of who I am. And I've decided that I should be honest, and others have encouraged me to do that. So I really enjoy that part. And so oftentimes in my work, I talk about emerging practice and really focusing on those lenses as a futurist. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And for those of you who have not visited us, the New School and Parson School of Design at the New School, this is part of some of our buildings and galleries. And some of my actually students here as part of an exhibition we put together last year. Just at the end of the exhibition, you can see everybody kind of pretty much ready to close. But my work is embodied, this is very important, in emerging technologies, because I don't see any one of those technologies, whether it's XR or AI, working in a vacuum, right? It's actually the convergence of these technologies. And so I'm the founding director of these three labs, the XR, AI, and quantum labs. And this is all under the home of the Innovation Center that I lead. So I teach the immersive storytelling class, which is the largest immersive storytelling class in the country, with 100 students. We've been also running this class now for almost a decade. So we've been having the class with 100 students, and I lead that work class with 4 TAs. And we do some really exciting things. Students are empowered to work as creators. So we meet in multiple realities across multiple platforms, but our students create. And that's, for me, very important part, as the way to explain, understand, to be critical about this field is to experience it. And so at the end of each year, we have the Future of Storytelling Festival, which usually features all of the experiences students have created over the course of the semester, which is usually between 20 and 25 experiences. And you see one of our most kind of recent flyers of our, all the work that students have put in, been creating these immersive experiences. But we do also work in real world, where we tackle critical questions, the ethics about the field, really pushing the boundaries in creating experiences, games across fashion, design, narrative, space, architecture. Students come from all of these programs we have, including communications, journalism, social research. So and performance, drama, and jazz. And so it's really an amazing opportunity for me to bring all these students together to think about the future of storytelling. And it is it certainly is the highlight of the work I do. And you can see, some of the, again, just sharing some of the work the students have been doing from our Immersive Storytelling Festival and some of the posters we have. And if you want to, learn more about the course, I'll share a snippet where you can, also a video and, link where you can, at the end of the session, where you can see some of this in action. Okay. In addition to that, we have the Innovation Center AI Lab, where we focused in the last, particularly in the last 3 semesters in creative work and ethics, and really making with generative AI. That is, again, one of the contexts I see is most powerful for our students as creators. And this is my research assistant, Jule Krüger, who work, arm in arm next to me in putting together something like 20 different workshops over the course of both semesters for our students and faculty, and engaging in a variety of different events, and very proud of her work. In our quantum lab, we have been the first ever institution to engage in context of quantum computing and creatives. And this is a partnership that we've actually done and developed with IBM, and put together the very first quantum art exhibition, which was, I think, a point for our students of real pride when, IBM professionals came to the exhibition. They work again with industry partners, and answered one of the questions. No, you really are the first to ever, drive and to enter into this world of creatives and quantum computing. So pride for our students who are engaged in now over the course of the last 3 years in quantum jams and exhibition. And yes, as we first really entered this field, I think we all were absolutely surprised as the creativity students put into kind of visualizing quantum art and making this a field that is up and coming, probably a decade away from here, approachable. And that's one of the unique opportunities to have this space, to enter this space. From where I am, really our largest population comes from creatives, but with very, very, sort of impact on social research, environmental impact, civic discourse. So all of our designers are very, very proactive in bringing all of these lenses into the work we do. And yes, so this is the home for all the labs, the Innovation Center, as I mentioned, and I do I do a lot of work, and last year at ZGraph, we pioneered a very new sort of interactive voice interface with, which was predating some of the developments that are happening right now. We were also, we're consistently having VR exhibitions and immersive exhibition, immersive art, participating in a number of also events that are happening often in our city, just as we speak. Tribeca Film Festivals is happening, which also have an immersive component. Wonderful opportunities for us and our students to showcase work and be part of. But for me, as I mentioned, this work actually starts way back. Way back to 2010, predates a lot of the work in the immersive, really immersive learning space. When I was actually at not too far from where I am today, the new school, like really across the park at NYU, and working with another group of students and students entrepreneurs in Google Glass, and you can see me. But what you can see also here is some of the early work of prototyping this work, and one of my students drawing literally a VR headset, and that is in 2010. There is no VR headsets at the time, instead outside of heavy industrial labs. But what we have is Google Glass, and we were prototyping at the time, thinking about the future of spatial design, and so much that is so different once you actually wear Google Glass and have the opportunity to really think through something that sits on your face, and continues to be an insight for me. As I said, I like to write the first way. So my work is anchored in a lot of these experiences. I also do a lot of work with digital bodies, and my co-partner and founder, Emery Craig, with whom we pioneered the first articles on immersive learning, still across a significant body of work of 15 articles. And we continue to write at digitalbodies.net, so check us out. We stay always on the cutting edge of that research, and a lot of the work we do individually and together across different institutional organizations and others. And so that's some of the other work I do, and I've been, digital as a woman co-founder, that is particularly important for me. It's important for me to be embedded, not just in academia, but also in industry, and this is one way I stay connected. And finally, one of the things that I've consistently done, and recently actually, I was at one of the XL Women kind of celebration, and one of the kind of participants said, and so I tried to introduce myself, and she stopped me in my feet and said, "No, Maya, you are the original XL Women. You are XL Woman before there were XL Women." So took very big pride, and of course, all the work that Karen Alexandra has done with this community, amazing work, amazing women community. And some of that is the track record that I have also done in the industry talk at South by Southwest TU consistently over the last 9 years, 1 year in COVID. And so I'm kind of looking to pass on the torch, so to speak. But it's been also an amazing venue. So why a futurist, and why a futurist storyteller, and why this work? And as I said, kind of really for me, it's very important to look at the work we do, particularly with immersive technologies, emerging technology, the innovation and the future of learning. Is my focus, my first and foremost land is focus on students. But when I focus on students, I'm really focusing on new experiences, new practice, new digital lifestyles. And this kind of reflects my work. I'm looking for students and faculty that are working on the cutting edge, myself included. And, really, I'm looking at things and ways people do new things that transcend the disciplines, transcend how we do things, and empower and embrace new models of learning. And that's why, I really it's very important for me to kind of think about that, because we're living in a rapidly changing world. And so we actually need to think and design for emergence and not simply replicating existing practice. For me, it's always like working in a world of motion. And that is why the spirit, I think, and the spirit of the state of exile immersive learning is trying to capture, and it's like looking for these early signals in some ways. What's happening today in the world is also not just that, but we are living in a place where signals are mixing in a way we've never seen before. And so a lot of us are in positions, leadership positions, faculty position, that are kind of trying to interpret that. And one of the big challenge for me, and a challenge for all of you today, as I work with people, is to kind of try and to ask leaders to really not focus too narrowly on the future. And really kind of try to look and interpret the images in the signal of the chaos. I actually enjoy chaos. I love chaos. It makes me work. It makes my brain work. I like to kind of figure things out. And one of my parting early, sort of challenge for you is to ask you to think and look into the chaos and even in the uncertainty and ambiguity you might see as a way to actually train your eye and focus on your attention to see what matters. This is a little bit of sort of some of the knowing me, and some of you have met me and some of you know, but kind of understanding who I am. And of course, I do this work at iLRN with Jonathan Richter, and he's been a partner in crime for over the last 4 years in driving this work. And this work has been, the way I met Jonathan is kind of a little bit in that moment of chaos. And I loved it. I loved it kind of taking in and looking into a lot of the, at the time, the work that the panel has produced and figuring out the first set of categories. And our first set of categories, of course, as you look back, it's kind of focused on foundational things. And that is what first editions do, right? That's what we focus in first editions. You can kind of look at this, authentic learning, but there's some recurring themes that you recognize. We're looking at games, we're looking at affordability, access, and some of them have stood the time and continues to be questions on top of us. In a second edition of the report, things continue to evolve, right? And things continue, and we kind of start looking at more advanced topic and more advanced challenges, and thinking through curriculum, and thinking also through some of the catalysts, still very much in that more, I think, technology-driven framework. And that is kind of where we ended in the second edition. And now here we go, 2024, the State of Exciting Immersive Learning, our third edition. A testament of, I think the resilience that, we've worked through in this time. And I'm just been, these three processes have been very different, I must say, as somebody who's leading that work. And I will point to some of the differences. And certainly the last panel, and some of you, I hope, here, a panelist who coming back, and to see some of this work is important because we did an accelerated panel this time. So our first panel included a number of different kind of very lengthy, long period of convening. The second panel was a forecasting workshops that that happen online, but were very intense, like over the course of, I convened and facilitated more than 12 different workshops with constituencies on the panel. And this next was sort of last third round at the moment that we are looking at was an accelerated round, which was mostly asynchronous. So yes, as I mentioned in the previous round, we always had the first one asynchronous only, asynchronous and synchronous for the second, and now we moved into a accelerated kind of asynchronous round as some of the panels have participated, and that gave us a unique opportunity to do this work starting late last year, and just you're arriving at the right time and the right place where I'm going to announce the categories for our third edition today. So. Of course, I want to recognize some of the, all the panelists who participated in that work. And I know this was a a much shorter and accelerated round. What we thank you and thank you for the work you all do, and just taking the survey and contributing through the voting. So the way the report is, also for those of you who are new to the State of XR and Immersive Learning report, the way the report works is through a Delphi-inspired method. That method also really looks into the work is centered around three main questions. And more broadly, these questions focus on the greatest needs and the most promising opportunities in learning that XR and immersive technology can help fulfill. The second one focuses on the most salient barriers facing institutions and organizations seeking to adopt XR and immersive learning technologies. And the third one is really kind of related to the entire ecosystem of complementary technology tools, digital developments, that bring the potential to help transform learning, teaching and learning, and of course training and workforce training in that context. So the Delphi-inspired method helps us convene the panel around these three questions, which focuses our work. Okay, so and now we are going to look at our first section for the 2024 State of XR Immersive Learning Forecasting Process, our opportunities. Drum roll, please. So these are the 6 categories in our new section, opportunities. So as you can see, each of these research questions, the work actually embraces 6 categories, which happens through a voting and also to a strategic research on my part that I do in looking at all the contributions and in terms of framing the categories that is then put for the vote of the panel. And these are our brand new 2024 opportunities for research question 1. So the future of content production with XR and AI integration, immersive storytelling for cultural heritage preservation, enhanced healthcare training with immersive technologies, innovative approaches to personalized learning and assessment in XR, advancing diversity and inclusion through immersive experiences, and critical thinking and engagement in immersive technologies. This year, we also have an amazing student illustrator, one of our students, Grace Park from Parson Design and Technology, who herself has actually has done a significant work in the immersive games and storytelling domain, is also our featured artist. So you can see our first research questions, opportunities. So really, I think that the way we frame those is particularly in our first category emphasizes really the convergence between XR and artificial intelligence, to look into new methods of content production in education. Really, it's sort of the opportunity to facilitate personalized, dynamic learning content, enhancing both learning experiences and ultimately the outcome. So you can see some of the kind of other featured approaches. One very, very important to me, of course, is advancing diversity and inclusion through immersive experiences. We have such a unique opportunity through the application of XR to foster diversity and inclusion. And this came through both the work, the research, and the panel vote, and really to design immersive experience that can enhance understanding, empathy among learners, and really kind of thinking to more inclusive educational environments. Another top priority for me in my sort of role as a teacher, as a professor, is critical thinking and engagement in immersive realities. As I mentioned, I am fully embrace the idea that students need to create and make, and not just participate in this field, and not just conceptually kind of consume and view this work only. So this is really a very important topic, the opportunity to use immersive realities to boost critical thinking and engagement, providing environments where learners can interact with complex scenarios and problems in a way perhaps some of traditional educational settings cannot offer. So moving to our next question, barriers. Of course, this is also very important because part of our mission in this as educators is to realize that potential of immersive learning. But we also face with barriers, and recognizing these barriers allows us to focus fully on accomplishing, doing better, accomplishing outcomes and objectives that we focus on. So the first one comes in is this lack of vision, funding, and leadership in XR implementation. Again, we are all, institutions which are kind of in a different place of the continuum of adoption. And so this is an important topic in terms of how we engage with our faculty, with our students, with our institutions. Another one is obviously challenges in kind of moving away from just a pilot into scaling XR in an educational institution. And that leads to another challenge which we face, particularly in a volatile world, which investment and the cost of content creation coming up as the third barrier. Another very well recognized, I think, by many of us, and importance to be here today, is the insufficient professional development and teacher training for really effective XR integration. We know that there's a lack of professional development and adequate training for educators on how these XR technologies and affordances really can be successful and actually reaching successful implementation, not just writing on the idea of novelty. Next up, another very dear to me, very important barrier, which I think a challenge that we'll continue to tackle for some time across emerging technologies is ethical, privacy, and data security concerns in XR platforms. That these, again, in scaling that technology, we cannot allow to not be really good stewards of our data, our students' data, institutional data. So, ethical issues along with concerns about privacy and data security in the use of XR platforms really important. We need to address them, and we need to ensure the safety and the trust of our students and faculty. And the sixth one is the need for greater inclusivity and proven effectiveness in XR learning environments or immersive learning environments. And really, again, sort of the call for more inclusive and effective effectively design XR learning environments to ensure that these spaces benefit a broad spectrum of users and learners, that we continue to bring in learners into these spaces rather just than focusing on specific groups. And this is a work in progress because a lot can be done to address that, and I'm sure many of you would agree. Okay. Again, drum roll for some of the beautiful illustration of in looking at, again, some of the challenges that we continue to be faced. Really, as I said, recognizing these challenges empowers us to continue work towards effectively addressing them. Okay, moving on to our research question number 3. and also name that, kind of the shortcut in terms of catalyst, right? The technologies that continue to catalyze new opportunities, and in some expected and unexpected ways. So here we go, our 6 categories for catalyst. On top of the expanding use of no-code and low-code tools for streamlined content creation, we started our first opportunity as the opportunity to create personalized content. But even more important is having a no-code or low-code tools as a way of simplifying the content creation process and enabling an ability for more teachers and faculty, students alike to, for these tools to be more accessible. And so educators can themselves be content creators and not depend on developers, or even, have better partnerships in that way. So the second one on the list, leveraging generative AI to enhance educational content and personalization, another key area for, where we are talking about the future of learning in terms of really a high level of tailored content, personalized content that is allowing for more adaptive and responsive learning experiences. Next one is the advancing simulation-based learning for realistic training environments. And I know some of you who work in the context of the future of work and workforce development, certainly an area that has been and seeing a lot of development over the last 5 years. But even in more recent traction of our report for over the last 6 months, the report highlights, sort of this category really highlights the importance of simulation-based learning, where realistic training environments created within XR platforms can significantly enhance practical skills and knowledge application. So moving on is the idea of our 4th catalyst, exploring embodied experiences and interaction for deeper learning engagement. And this, for all of us, thinking through the student again, thinking through that student lens, deeper learning engagement, right? And it's very important. That's how we really educate for critical thinking, educate for the future, and embodied experiences, interaction in immersive environments are recognized for their potential to deepen learning engagement and improve outcomes for learning in experiences, as they are oftentimes more intuitive and natural than in just text. And of course, we should be looking through all of these modalities, but a really unique opportunity for engagement. Next one, catalyst, 5th, integrating games and learning to foster motivation and skill development. And again, this is really discussed as a catalyst in terms of the increased motivation and enhancing skill developments among learners. And finally, on our list of catalysts is the idea of the use of avatars, hologram, virtual beings in immersive realities and immersive environment. And that is seen and will continue to be, I think, a force for transformation in terms of, again, creating more engaging and interactive learning experiences. And so this makes up our 6th category in the context of catalyst. Again, really, looking at the transformative impact of all these categories together in the context of immersive learning. All right, so this is it. Our State of Exciting Immersive Learning, 2024 categories. An amazing set. Again, the illustration for this work was created by Grace Park, who is a designer and herself a winner of the MIT Hackathon in not a simple category, hardware track. And you can see her team's experience, which was actually has something to do and had a lot to do with taste and food. Probably one of the most innovative experience I've seen over the last 5 years at the MIT Reality Hack, and Grace and her team just want everybody. It continues to be the talk of the town now, a year and a half later. Incredibly proud of this team of my students and Grace for being, I think that one of the opportunity this year is we're having a designer who embodies and works within immersive experiences, and it shows. So big shout out to Grace for the amazing work she did. All right, so I want to kind of look into, now that we've seen the new categories, and I am, again, there will be more to come with the forthcoming report, but a little bit of a moment of an opportunity, given that this is the third round. I'm so proud to have facilitated that, being the third round of the State of Exciting Immersive Learning, and kudos to all of you who, we've been participating, and again this year on an accelerated timeline with a much smaller panel. I appreciate you all. So, how do we look into how these things stack over the course of the last 3 years? And of course, you have to kind of really think that our institutions are also at a different place. So, we are walking this walk, and it's not always complete. It is somewhat uneven. And some of you have been working in the field over the last 5 years. Some of you have been working in the field over the last 10. And a few of you here maybe just got started a year or two ago. And so that is recognized. But in 2020, when we were looking at that work in a much slow pace, because this was the lengthiest kind of panel work that continued over the course of almost a year, was really foundational, looking at these foundational opportunities, focus on, establishing immersive learning and kind of spaces, and really creating the language around that in terms of learners and faculty, and really discussing sort of the opportunity for collaboration and integration within the educational and learning environments. Moving on, in our second edition, we really definitely saw expansion of topics and questions, and sort of really opportunities evolved to include more specific educational framework and theoretical frameworks. At that point, some of you who've been in this, in the work, the metaverse experience was kind of the ideas around the metaverse was running really high in the hype cycle. So that normally reflected the work of the panel, virtual worlds, and in thinking. But I think the two moments was really around curriculum and workforce developments, and also sort of the early conversation around standards, the XR and kind of standards as part of these educational environments, the realization of that. And I think in this kind of 2024 work that just completed is moving away the work from really exploring the latest opportunities of a much more advanced applications, the integration of AI and XR in context production, immersive storytelling, cultural preservation, healthcare, and other sort of workforce development training. And so there's a career shift in more personalized and more also specific application, discipline specific, which I think is an indication about maturity on some level. And I want to walk you through a little bit also how this works out into the sort of that evolving nature, right? And so if we're looking into really the catalysts, and the catalyst is really, as I mentioned, this that much more of technology enables early on. How do we do this? What is available? To starting to think of pedagogical and emerging tech standards in order for us to be able to do this as educational institution. Again, moving from that idea of a pilot project to scale, and then coming into these much more advanced tools that now we're looking into, which we are, witnessing. I think I moved this a little fast. So barriers. So again, into this really mirrors some of the categories of our, kind of challenges and initial barriers, focusing really on access, affordability, lack of training, lack of interoperability, technical support, or development support, fundamental challenges. And that was very much on mind of any kind of educational program adopting immersive learning. Moving on, in 2022 we were much more focused on really like meaningful educational experiences, right? It's not just sampling some tools, application experiences, and so sort of the lack of content, I think the lack of content dominated so many of our panel discussions. Privacy, ethics, the new kind of assessment models that need to be developed, which is something that is going to continue to be a work in progress. But that shift in 22 reflected again a deep understanding of the complexity involved in integrating XR into kind of like into our teaching and learning environment on a much more like system approach. And today we're looking at leadership of vision and vision, so needed. In order to do this effectively, this should not ride on novelty. I step into a number of institutions, not just in the US, in Europe. As a matter of fact, I'm headed to Brussels in a week, and I see that. Sort of one of the biggest barriers is lack of leadership and vision, lack of fully understanding the idea of immersive learning, the concepts, the frameworks, but also letting go of concepts and frameworks that we are so used to and perhaps too kind of quickly to point to. So this really requires visionary leaderships. It really requires funding. It really requires a much more comprehensive strategy for integrating and scaling XR technologies. And of course, we have to address the ethical, the privacy, inclusivity issues. These remain significant. We have to bring all of our learners in these spaces. So yeah, this highlights sort of the ongoing need to develop much more robust framework support and teaching and learning strategies. And finally, if we look into this idea of catalysts, we're looking usually in our early work, we started looking at haptic feedback, volumetric capture, some machine learning. These technologies were definitely seen as enablers even back in 2020, and also as a way that will potentially drive adoption and effectiveness. And indeed, we kind of seeing that actually materialize as right now as we speak, not just in individual projects, but more broadly. 2022 was a year, I think, for the metaverse, the standards. So we saw a lot of kind of really interest in Web3, metaverse, augmented reality glasses, sort of a stronger focus on improving, I think, also the design, the better user experience within these worlds. As more and more people, as a result of the pandemic, have entered these spaces, and so I think the needs and I think also the request for that for these spaces to mature was very prominent. And coming into 2024, in the latest edition, highlights really the expanding use of bringing more and more, I think, participants in the field. And one opportunity is the use of no-code or low-code tools, which will bring not just engineers and computer scientists and game designers, but a lot of other creatives and journalists and a lot of other sort of learners and practitioners who can engage in content creation. And one of the potential paths, of course, is leveraging generative AI. So the focus today is really making creation and implementation of immersive content more accessible. But there's also a strong emphasis on really those being purposeful learning environments that look into create deeper engagement for our students. So over the course of the 3 editions, I think opportunities, in XR have evolved from foundational implementations to advanced and personalized application, reflecting the growing integration and sophistication of immersive technologies in education. The barriers, I think, have shifted from initial technical and training challenges we saw to, again, more complex issues such as leadership, vision, ethical concerns, really thinking in the context of the entire educational experience, educational system, and highlighting that we still face significant ongoing challenges. And then in the Catalyst, we've transitioned from basic enabling technologies to looking for advanced tools that facilitate more effective content creation, pointing really to the future, more seamlessly integrating these tools within the educational practice and frameworks. And I think this really suggests that a maturing field and increasing potential to transform the educational experience significantly, but yet a work in progress. Another benchmark we look into the report, which I can share with you here, and I think the rest will have to wait until later on. We do have a few additional things in store, but you can think about, we ask a question, what event do you see as most likely to dramatically propel XR forward in education? And you can see now across our 3 editions, and in 2020, a major social and cultural shift was kind of really, and that was the moment of the pandemic, meaning the reduction in travel, face-to-face meeting, and that sort of disease outbreak that we have, economic crisis was really on top of the panel, on top of mind, not just the panel, but all of us. And you can see that kind of the change over time, interestingly, following kind of 2022 on the exit out of the pandemic, significantly going down from 4, that's the green area of the donut graph. And so going down from 44 to 18. So yeah, we all were definitely, experiencing hard times. Purple is university school policies. So this is another area interesting to observe, that more and more there's the recognition that university, and that is the lack of strategic vision, why vision is so important in leadership, but more and more we see the sort of the growth in this area, how critical leadership is in bringing successful immersive learning implementations. Another area we look into is government policy, because I think funding is such a big factor because of some of the privacy security ethics. You can see that area is kind of staying around. It's growing, from 6 to 10 to 11, almost 12% today. That is another area to observe. One area to observe, which is in blue, which is interesting, how it's basically a major business release or a popular tool, hardware, software. So thinking about the big tech. So you can see this in 2022, high percentage, almost 24 points. And then as, following the pandemic, sort of reliance on so much of a big tech to deliver to us in education and business and work, increased percentage, 10 points increase in that, and now a bit normalizing, actually going down slightly. And that is because we do have some stable kind of headset distribution model, although it is a monopoly. I think, desperately need more entry points in this market to drive the cost down, but it's interesting to observe the blue area and in how that has had an impact as well on the overall landscape. These are some of the nodes, some of the emerging trends that we can see. across the sort of the 3 edition that I taught some of you in various opportunities in your roles as administrators, as faculty, as teachers, as leading these technologies, and designers, as leading some of those implementation within your organization, within your school, within your college, may benefit, because in a way the part of the report is not only looking at the insights, but also looking into these developments in immersive learning that can guide you forward in terms of your own work within your institution. So I think that's a super important work that really is anchored in the research and the insight, and in really basically finalizing these 16 categories. So in closing, I think what is in the essence, like this 3rd edition, and how would we kind of look into the top developments perhaps in this field? And that's my short list for you. I think what we're witnessing right now, and as I mentioned, this is definitely a work in progress, and I also encourage you to put some questions in the chat at this point. I think we'll have a few minutes. I can answer some questions via the chat, but you can see sort of the short list of developments of immersive learning is we are looking into the advancement and integration. So we're moving from exploration to really deeper integration, meaning that we're looking into pedagogy, we're looking into assessment, we're looking into access, we're looking at all these elements to make a successful and purposeful integration into that educational journey. Really important part in creating a meaningful learning experiences. With that, we're looking at a pedagogical evolution. So we're looking to move away from some of the basic kind of applications, some of the, perhaps looking back into some of the frameworks we know, and think of new frameworks, or frameworks that uniquely fit this place. And test some of the frameworks we know, and test some hypotheses, and see the opportunity to evolve those, and really kind of think differently around them. But really developing more comprehensive pedagogical strategies for curriculum, and that reflects our growing understanding of the field, and ultimately fundamentally alter teaching and learning dynamics. If it doesn't change some of the roles we know, the role of the teacher, the role of the student, the way they engage, fundamentally, I think that we're talking about really kind of recycling perhaps some of the old pedagogy in the space that may or may not be always the same, and ask us to be more creative. Content creation is on top of everybody. That is in the role of really pioneering immersive learning, because there's always the need for more tailored content to specific disciplines, specific experiences, and it's still taking longer, and it still requires a significant amount of learning curve or development funding to actually create dynamic educational experiences. So that is, I think, on top of mine, and in how do we respond to our faculty and our institution for this real-time need, and the real-time is actually needs of individual learners. Next one, coming down on this list, is ethical, privacy, and accessibility concerns. And I address some of those. Again, a work in progress, but it has to reflect our increased commitment to inclusivity. So we can't just go, some of us there, we have to bring everybody. It's a big focus for me, certainly. And not to mention, we're not going into today deep fakes and the impact of sort of ethics on a discourse in an era where so many people around the world will be voting. So very, very critical and important area, professional development, and again, institutional support talks to the work that lays ahead and we continue to do, and then ultimately thinking about these creating these experiences and the focus to expand, sort of creating experiences in the context of social and virtual worlds, and really suggesting the shift towards building comprehensive virtual communities and for learning across our institutions, across the world, and global networks and conferences like the one today. So I think we live in an exciting times, and I think that this is the body of the report. I'm particularly proud with the work this year, and as I mentioned, an accelerated timeline, but nonetheless, very, I think, incredible, just an incredible set of topics and opportunity of how this is poised to transform learning. So once again, I'm looking at some of the questions in the chat. Yes, more to come. More to come. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here today. More to come from the State of Exciting Immersive Learning forecasting process and report. As I mentioned, you just witnessed the unveiling of the brand new 2024 categories. I'm excited to bring those to you and looking forward to sharing more in the months to come. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of the iLRN community. And thank you for those of you who are panelists and are here today for the work you do. And for me, this is a highlight and a source of pride that we have arrived to our third edition. And it is in itself a resilient and a progress, in terms of what we've been able to achieve together. So thank you so much. And good luck in your own endeavors in this field. I know many of you are here to learn and are here to share. I want to also quickly say that we are we'll be looking for a new nominees for panel members. So I will share that. And in addition to that, in the second part, whether you're a panelist or not, you're all invited to submit your immersive projects to be featured in the report. So if you give me just a moment here, I will share this link with you in addition to being here. 1 second. I'll be sharing the link. Very important. We absolutely value the opportunity for you to share the work you do, the work on your campus, within your organization. So this will give you an opportunity both to submit some of the work you do to be featured in the report, as well as to nominate yourself or others to participate as a panelist in the next round. Please consider that. Please consider passing it to a colleague that might be interested to participate in this effort. We will share the work. So I look forward to seeing your responses, and we look forward to featuring the work you do. This is a work that is, I know, born with a lot of passion, overcoming challenges, and looking into the future. So I'm so inspired to read and hear about the work you do across your different areas and institutions. So please take a moment, and this opportunity will be open until July 15. So early on, I think I promised and I didn't share the video, but if you're interested in the work I do at the New School and the immersive storytelling class, this is the video that we put together and featuring some of that work. And feel free to always reach out to me. And I'm sharing here my personal email address as well. If you need, for any further conversation on this topic and anything around the future of learning, immersive learning and immersive storytelling, which is, I'm always up for a conversation. Okay, so now we're over time, but I am just just taking the opportunity to share a few of those opportunities for you. And yes, looking forward to connecting with all of you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to close the conference and hopefully take you into a place where you can see the future of learning, and you can see yourself as one having agency to change it. And that's, I think, the most important part to me, that that is, this progress calls for, an effort from all stakeholders, including educators, technologists, policymakers, learners, to collaborate, to innovate in a way that we make a more accessible, more meaningful, and learning experience for our students.
Thank you so much, Maya. That was absolutely phenomenal. Look, what an amazing gift on your birthday. Thank you so much for presenting today the 24 or the 18 beautiful cards, the presentations, like your approach and sharing with us kind of like this emerging future. So thank you so much. Wow, this is fantastic.